Well, hello folks, this is Jamil Sweat for Gunstruck Reviews, and today we're going to build a Glock pistol. Yes, from a stripped frame. I know there's a lot of people out there who are building guns out of 80% frames, but they're paying $150 for a frame you have to hack on for hours, while you pay $75 for this one from the Glock store, but it has a serial number, you have to register it. So, me personally, I'm lazy, I just don't want to do all that. The tools we're going to need, other than the stripped Glock frame, is a working block, which is kind of nice, a nice working surface. This is actually a child's placemat that sticks to the table. It's really cool. A hammer, small hammer that has brass and Delrin on one side. This is the Glock tool, the official Glock tool. This is so cool, but guess what? I have something better, which is the True Glow tool. It gives me a better grip. It's aluminum, tool steel, much better tool. I have a small file for a process that is actually not necessarily something I like to do. And I have some Permatex copper anti-seize lubricant. This is, when you buy a new Glock, this is the lubrication that Glock uses on their pistols when they ship them to you. So this is really cool. I got this from an automotive store, so you can get this any place. This is, they make it Permatex or they make it in Loctite brand. So let's go ahead and start. The first part we're going to install, which is already installed in this one, is the mag release spring that goes inside of the mag well. I say this is the most difficult part because you have to carefully use tweezers to lay it in the channel there and push it. I usually use a Glock sight tool to push it in. You have to be careful because you're going to notice in some of the photos in this video, the inside of the mag well is sanded, is because I actually bent one of these things. You see, I bent it and I scratched the inside of the mag channel. So don't do that because that's not good. Okay, first of all, let me tell you, I get all my parts, all my OEM Glock parts from Brownells. They come in nice little yellow packets with each part properly identified. You can find these in the Brownells website under schematics. If you go under the schematics, and there's a drawing of the blown up pistol, and you can pick each part and actually order the parts, appropriate parts that you need. I would suggest to Brownells to have all the parts in one package so you don't have to order each part individually, but hey, that's me because I'm lazy. First part we're going to do is going to install the magazine release. I ordered the extended magazine release for the Glock 17, which is a little longer. The only changes I do on this is before I install it, I take a file and I file every corner down around 45 degrees. What am I doing this for? Is because it's very sharp, and when you grip your pistol, it will be kind of cutting into your skin. So I file it until I do about a 45 degree cut on it on each side. So, see? It's not much. You don't have to file too much. You just have to break the edge. I do that. That's a personal preference. You do not have to do this. That's just me because my tender hands can't handle sharp things. I do the corners. So I go like this, and I break each corner down. Okay. There might be some burrs on it, so don't worry about those. You can pick them off because this is polymer. You can pick up the burrs with your fingernail and you'll be okay. Next step, we're going to put our mag catch in until it stops. It is going to stop against the spring. So what you're going to be doing is from the opposite side, you're going to lift the spring up and put your magazine catch in, and then you're going to notice that the spring, and there's a notch to the left of the spring. You're going to have to use your Glock tool to put the spring in place in the little notch there to the left, and you're done. Ta-da! Next part, and I'm not doing this in any specific order, it's just this is the order I would like to do this, install these parts in. So next part, we're going to put the spring that holds the slide detent. So because I got parts everywhere, here there's a slide detent, and here's the little spring. So we're going to properly get the parts. First thing, we're going to put the spring. This is not difficult to do. There is a channel in there for the spring to go, and you sort of carefully find the spot where this goes in. Doing it backwards here, it's kind of hard to do. And then you push it with your finger.
Dude, I can't see anything you're doing.
Yeah, push it in with your finger. Using your Glock tool, make sure it goes all the way down. There you have it, it's in that channel there. The mag catch. It goes with the little notch, like I said, facing you. In the pictures that I'm showing you, I'm doing it backwards like this to illustrate how you don't do it. You got the frame in your hands. You put there's a little notch on the bottom. The little U-shaped thing goes on top with the notch again facing you. And carefully push this down all the way through, and this will go in, and let it go, and it's detented inside of the frame. You have now installed your slide stop or slide detent. Okay, our next step, we're going to install the trigger return spring on the rear block that has the ejector, that houses the ejector, and it houses the striker, and we're going to install the trigger too. So I am not going to use OEM parts for the trigger and the striker. I'm going to use Apex parts. So trigger return spring, how do you install it? You start with, there's a little notch in the back of the block that has a hole and a detent. So you're going to take your return spring with the hook opening on the bottom, and you're going to put it in here. I mean, it's sort of hooks in and turns around like that. Okay? Next, disconnector. I'm using an Apex disconnector here. It goes in like this, and there you go. Lastly, we want to put the trigger assembly in it. Again, Apex, which is my favorite trigger. And I didn't say this at the beginning, but this is a 3rd generation pistol frame. So the assembly for the 4th and 5th generation is different. You're going to grab the spring like so, with the opening always goes to the front, and there's a little hole in there on the trigger body, a trigger bar. Carefully make sure that your trigger is properly attached to the trigger return spring. Basically slowly pull out and put your assembly in it. There's a little notch on the block that you can put your trigger bar through. Your trigger is now assembled. Now we're going to install the trigger assembly and the ejector block and everything onto the pistol frame. Okay, now we're going to install the pin that retains the trigger block. This one doesn't take that much pressure, but I am going to use the Delrin part of my hammer just to push it in all the way through, and use my Glock tool to make sure it drives home. Look on both sides and make sure that the pin is at the same distance on both sides. Next one, we're going to put the barrel locking block in. In the photos that I'm including here, I'm going to show me installing the mag release without putting the locking block in, and it doesn't work. It fits, but it doesn't work that way. You got to put your locking block first. It goes this way, with the two prongs forward, with your locking block in place around the trigger. There you go. It's in. At this point, you can put the locking block pin in. This pin goes in real easy. Like all Glock parts, they just slip in. Make sure that it's at the same distance on both sides, so I go back and forth. See, same distance, it sort of snaps in. The last two parts is, I would consider to be kind of difficult to do. And I do it this way because I haven't found a better way of doing it. Find a punch that sort of fits that hole. Okay. We're going to put the slide stop in. If you notice in here, there's a little space in there. That's where your slide stop is going to go. Okay? So we're going to carefully put the slide stop in that space. And this is the part where you have to have like 3 hands, and I use this as a slave pin. I try to put all the parts together. Be patient, move all the parts around until all the parts go through, and you're using the trigger pin. And this one actually is kind of funny because it goes in real easy from the right side of the frame. So carefully, as I'm pushing this in, tapping it in, I am letting my punch come out until it's done. Again, make sure that it's in the same distance on both sides, so you might have to tap a little bit, not too hard, don't tap too hard. See, it's at the same place on both sides. Now you have a completed Glock frame. One more detail that I like to do, I got a Glock plug from Gunfighter Academy, and just basically push in. You're done. You have a completed Glock frame with Apex trigger parts. Now we're going to do this. The trigger kit from Apex has a couple of extra parts. We have them here. We'll install them on the slide when we build the slide. So stay tuned for more things on this project. Before we go, let's put a little bit of lubrication in it. Using the file that we used before, we grab a dab of the anti-seize compound. I'm going to put it in the same place as Glock puts it in. I'm going to put it in this connector area on the lever here with that catches the striker. I'm going to put a little bit on all 4 rails, not a lot. You don't go put a lot of this stuff in because it's going to get messy. So that's way too much. On the trigger here, where it connects with the striker block. That's actually more than I wanted to put in it, but okay, we'll remove it later. So now you're lubricated, ready for the slide.